start with our next session. Today, it's quite clear that in this era of digital evolution, it is essential for retail leaders and human resources professionals to realize the impact of the fast paced, ever changing digitalization in their jobs and workplaces. Not only today, but in the future as well. To serve a digitally empowered consumer, we need retail associates to be trained in the digital mindset as well. Our next session, ladies and gentlemen, will lead directions in developing trends within the HR domain in the light of the digital boom, building the next generation of talent in retail. The digitally empowered retail leaders and frontline associates to serve the digital savvy retail consumer in the omni-channel era. And for that, I would like to invite on stage, and for all of you to warm up a bit, please put your hands together and welcome our moderator on stage, our speaker on stage, B. Venkat Ramana, President Group, HR Landmark Group. Mr. MVS Murthy, Chief People Office, New Future Digital, Future Group. Mr. Sachin Kamath, Director, Employee and Customer Engagement, Enrich Salons. Mr. Sameer Srivastav, CEO, JCB Salons. And to moderate this session, may I please call on stage Mr. Rahul Singh, Founder and CEO, The Beer Cafe.
Okay. Good afternoon. Torture test, post-lunch. So, and that too on HR, which actually is the most important domain actually in any organization. So what we're going to do is we have 5 of us here to represent very large groups, Future Group and Landmark, to represent salons, JCB and Enrich, and I am the lubricant here, providing the beer to them. So, you know, it kind of, that's how we're going to do it. And reason I'm here actually is, apart from founding the company that I represent and this, being the CEO, I'm also the people's person in my own company. So I'm the Santa Claus of my own company. We're 800 people now. And one of the things people look up to it is if there's any problem, I'm the person that they can call in. And that's one of the reasons I'm actually part of this. So I have no HR background. I don't have any degree and skill. It's all heartfelt that we're going to do. Okay, so how we're going to do it is we won't bore you with any decks and you know, any presentation. We'll just keep it like a panel, a freewheeling panel. We'll talk to each other. In the end, we will leave this, you know, we'll ask you to give us certain questions that if you have any query which is specific to anybody or to the group, and we'll try and answer that. So we'll keep it like that. We have a timer ticking right now, which we can see and you can't. So we'll keep it within that time frame. So what I'm going to do is, you know, I'll start with Sachin, okay? That's how we'll go in order. So, you know, coming from a service background, Sachin, and the kind of business that your company runs, we have the same. And we were taught, or we were kind of explained that keep your phones away, okay? Keep your smartphones away. You are a service industry. In our case, we have crew who serve. In your case, you have therapists who are, you know, servicing clients. And he said, keep your phones away. And here in this forum, or, you know, the forum or the IRF's theme has been that, you know, it's all about being digital. So we were told, keep your phones away. And now we're telling our staff and our crew members, keep your phones on. So, you know, do you think this is, you know, why has all this happened? You know, from keeping it away to now keeping it on.
To start with, I think we are in this whole experience era. And the key thing that I think will make or break is being able to adapt. Right? So you're very right. Earlier we told all our people that you are in the service business, focus on your customer, keep your phones aside while you're at work. Now the very same people are going to use those phones to check in when they reach their workplace instead of the biometric check-in. They're going to be on chat messenger to customers, giving opinions, and they're going to do a whole lot of things there. So it's about how you adapt from that to this, because this is the new way to be, but while always remembering what your core is. For example, there is Samir from JCB and us here. We are in the service business. We are actually delivering people self-esteem, grooming. So there is a personal touch involved here, which is something we can never ever forget. So while we can use technology to whatever extent to enable, we will have to remember that it has to eventually be one-on-one between the service provider and the customer.
Well said, because I think one thing in a salon is this is one place you are touched, and there's no way you can, not be touched. And one of the things about the team has to be that the kind of team that you have and the type of team that you groom needs to have that connect, that human interface, like you rightly said. Coming into Venkat, he represents Landmark Group, and if you want to introduce yourself, please go ahead and do that. But I'll just pop in the question, and you can do this in 2 frames, introduce yourself, which I didn't get the chance to do with Sachin. And then, so 200 outlets, 200 point of sales, 15,000 people, right? So that's the Landmark Group, one of the largest groups in India. Obviously, we're still away from drones delivering and robots coming to your homes so far. So I think those 15,000 people are needed, right? And you also have amount of attrition, which probably is, a double-digit attrition because of aspirations and the kind of retail staff we have. How can you use technology? Like, I'm like myself amused, how would you use technology around 15,000 people? So.
So you're very right, Rahul, because definitely, I'm sure Landmark Group, we run Lifestyle, Max, Home Center, City Max, which runs Krispy Kreme and Fun City and all that. So different categories that we actually handle, and the size of the stores are very different. Our frontline staff are all at 85% of our population. They are at minimum wages, earning 6,000, 7,000 rupees. But then what we really see is that these people, whatever salaries they earn, the survey says that 60% of that population have smartphones. So they definitely are people who want to be technologically savvy. But what we realize is that when it comes to technologically savvy, these are more for social media, it's more for WhatsApp and Facebook, and not really when it comes to learning solutions or various other things, they are not really ready. So I think it's about the mindset, because like you rightly said, retail itself as a industry or a career option today is still not established. People don't see it long term. So attrition levels are very high. So how do we keep them in terms of making sure that they provide the right customer experience? I mean, for the customers who walk into our store. And we are also getting into omni-channel. Shortly, we would be launching our omni-channel business. And it is a challenge, but what we've actually done is we have technologically upgraded in terms of, as an organization, from an employee point of view. We moved away from, attendance on Excel sheets, monitoring them, payroll systems, which was very different. We now have a biometric system integrated to payroll, so that actually kind of helps. Second is we've also made sure that most of our employees' self-service portal now and intranet have mobile application. We are moving into cloud, so primarily we're looking at how even for a certain level of people, travel approvals, leave approvals and things like that are all online, so it helps them not to actually kind of miss out on a loss of pay or anything like that, so that kind of helps them. And we are also working on how we can use technology for training, because that would be a great platform. And today, if you look at training methodologies, the old classroom training has all gone. I mean, nobody has the patience to sit in classrooms. So today we're looking at gamification and various other theater methodologies that we want to bring in to make it more interesting for them. So that we need to actually make sure it's on their phone or on the system. Also the fact that we are also looking at primarily seeing how they get used to mobile POS and maybe in terms of where they can actually map applications which map inventory or in alterations and things like that. So all that is getting adapted to them. So we actually have a induction program, strong induction program. Earlier, the technology orientation would be very, very, it would be an hour or so. But today we spend more than 2 days at least orienting them on this, so to get them prepared for this. So that's something which we really do at this point of time, Rahul.
Thank you, sir. What I'll do is move to Samir here, so that you get a difference of opinion from one group to a service industry. Now, a brand like yours is on social media. You are out there because the kind of consumers, or let's say clients and guests and hosts, the kind of people that you interact with are already on social media. Do you think because you are visible on social media, you have a connect with your consumers there, but the people that you employ, or the team that you actually, or prospective employees that are going to join you, they also see you on social media, I'm sure. They do the research, because the kind of people you hire are people who are pretty well, I would say, savvy to that point. Do you think you can use social media as a platform for recruitment?
Okay, I think just a bit of introduction. I work for this small company, which is a multinational beauty business from France. So we actually work with Europe, where, answering your question, a lot of some amount of recruitment also happens from Europe. So how does Europe work on recruitment? I think we have definitely used social media for our international recruitments. And again, on social media, I think, yes, especially people who are wanting to, international artists who want to come to India, their source of credibility lies only in social media. So they are, and I personally believe in the fact that once whatever goes up in the digital world will always stay there. It's not going to vanish. So you have to be extremely careful about what goes up. And we've had successful recruitments using social media from across the world. In fact, as fresh as yesterday, we got somebody from a country called Algeria, which is a French-speaking country. So we have no branches in Algeria. The parent company does not operate in Algeria, but this gentleman, he's French-speaking, and he's gone to the website, he's gone to Facebook, he's looked at Twitter, and then he's realized that something good is happening. Consumers are talking about you positively. Coming back to an Indian horizon, I think the industry that we deal with, the intellect is gifted in another manner. They're creatively gifted people, hairdressers and hairstylists. Their level of exposure to, digital or educational background is different, because, they didn't go to professional business school, they didn't go to any other, their upbringing, God has been kind and gifted them differently. So there's a very strong word of mouth which operates in the industry, extremely. And yes, today for a hairdresser, the first thing is, "Acha, let me go to the website. Facebook mein kya ho raha hai," kind of thing. So answering your question, I think, yes, we have used social media for recruitment. Not that the consultant route is out. We will have to continue to use, and as people become more and more digital natives, I think the whole, our industry today is blessed to have a lot of people who've chosen this as a career, and from good family backgrounds. So it's not the traditional barber ban gaye ya hairstylist ban gaye. I think they're very good people. Sachin has some very terrific employees who actually take hairdressing as a passion. And these are people who are intellectually exposed, educationally savvy, and they would rely on these mediums to reach out to brands like us, Yeah.
Thanks, Samir. And so, Mr. Murthy, that's one way. So he represents the Future Group, the paradigm pioneers of retail in India. from a point that if there's anything in retail that has happened so far and will happen, it's thanks to Future Group, the way you kind of led retail, the organized retail. But, maybe from a, I would say, not from an industry perspective, but from a layman's perspective, completely as a consumer, I don't see Future Group more on the e-commerce side, and there might be a lot of e-commerce, but like a layman, I would say you always go towards the new kids in town, like the Flipkarts and the Snapdeal and Infibeam and even Paytm from a mobile payment to becoming e-commerce. Now, you set the trend, you basically rule the roost, and Future Group is everywhere in terms of presence. And the amount of people, workforce, I don't think anybody would have it in retail as you. How do you see, and this, I'm sure not many times have been asked that, how do you see the e-commerce where the people dependency is slightly lower compared to, in our case where brick and mortar, you have to be facing the customer directly. And here you're talking about also optimizing your resources, because when you're online, a lot of work is done by algorithms and, things. And here you have to really pay a salary, and you're paying a salary to a person, whose aspirations are going up. How do you actually tell this guy, what, your life is on retail, and I think you should feel proud being a retailer, and you should not become a coder and start coding something. So how do you bridge that divide? Because obviously you have a challenge of both as a group.
Yeah, thanks, Rahul. At the outset, a short answer to a long question is yes, we are excited about the e-commerce, definitely. A little bit of introduction about myself and where I come from. Yes, Future Group, a brand behind me, talks for itself. And a little bit of my introduction will also talk how close are we to the e-commerce platform itself. So the business which I support today are a couple of them within the Future Group. One is the new Future Digital India Limited, has the word digital within it. And it talks about the work we do. We are the captive IT mandate for the Future Group in terms of taking care of the entire landscape and the delivery. The second business I support is Big Bazaar Online Franchisee. Yes, again, it talks about the element of e-commerce within itself, but it's a different delivery model. I could talk in detail in a different platform, definitely. So I've been associated with this group for a little about 8 years, and my journey has been quite exciting within Future Group for the kind of change I saw within the group in terms of, keeping in pace with the customers' expectations. So coming to the technology stack, I think as we speak, we are juxtaposed between moving our current technology offering to a new level. The reason being is we have recently onboarded a group CIO, Mr. Vinod, and one of the tasks probably is to take us to the next level of IT delivery. And I think that's a great expectations both from the customers and internal business customers as well also. So in terms of our aspiration, I think we are heading towards or trying to be, aiming to be the best omni-channel retailer in the country. And in the subsequent sessions, I have many of my colleagues who are going to talk and pitch the same language. So coming to the question of how far are we? Yes, we have made our investments on the technology and the work in progress. You would no sooner or later hear the channels which we are opening up to the consumers. Let me also remind you in terms of e-commerce or probably the offering of an online option. Probably we have been one of the pioneers in the country. We had a very old brand which is not supported anymore. We called it futurebazaar.com, which did exist. And today, the Big Bazaar Online Franchisee is more of an evolved product out of the futurebazaar.com in some context. May not be the entire entity. So I think the omni-channel is a buzz, just not for somebody called it bubble to be burst. Yes, maybe, but then you have something quick to make up in the meanwhile, because that's yet another channel which the customers are aspiring to get yourself onto. And it brings in its own share or element of talent and its management with respect to how skilled man-force or talent you have around. And if you don't have, how do you actually manage to, while we were discussing offline with Venkat, he had this interesting question. Did you have any systems in place? I'm afraid we may not have solutions in place in terms of building that talent internally, but yeah, we have various strategies in terms of how to bring this talent to enable your online strategy to come up to scale and get it to the customers at the earliest. So my take is beyond what I just mentioned. I think you can go to any extent in terms of utilizing the technology, and as some of our panel members do exist in a business where the human element is intense. So I think it's about balancing the human element as well. And the other take is, today we talk about technology in the stores and how do you enable or train your store employees or the store team to kind of utilize them or use them for the benefit of themselves in turn of delivering better service to the customers. I think it has to have a good balance of what your backend, as in the HO team who are conceptualizing the strategy and the products, the product management, how well are they adopting the technology platform, and there has to be a balance between the front end and that back end which I'm talking about. Otherwise, somewhere the imbalance could create a little taxonomy in the whole stuff. So I think I would be very keenly looking at that. And in terms of ramping up our own team for better offering, I think we ourselves got into a better platform, no better than the one which we are currently invested upon. And the next immediate challenge is how do we get our team trained and and help them to stay. As somebody said again, retention. The industry, retail as an industry, you talked about the percentages, and technology is no mean. We have a very high element of retention issues. So I think we will definitely, if not invent new ways or methodologies, but how well we adopt those existing methodologies and bring them up to scale is something crucial for me at this point. We can discuss more about it.
So a lot of use of technology, as you can see, the Future Group is in. One of the things about these forums, and I've been attending these forums for 12 years now, the Indian Retail Forum, is that you always take away something away, as an audience. We could be talking to each other in any case, sitting in a room, and we anyway meet each other more often. But, so one needs to share, and that's exactly what, everybody's sharing their views. And being a moderator, I just don't have to ask questions. I'm going to share something with you, which has been very relevant to us, and if that makes sense to you. One of the biggest issues of people-dependent businesses like ours. So we would never be an e-commerce, because beer is considered liquor, and it can never be served out of a mobile phone, and it's not even allowed to be delivered home and all kinds of stuff. So we'll always be a people, and also it's an experiential place. You can go and get a beer at a Theka or any little retail vend. So why would you come to a place or a cafe or an outlet because you like that experience, and that will never be shortchanged by retail from that perspective. So when it comes to an experience, it is all dependent on the front end staff that we have or the crew members that we have. And when you grow quite quickly, you start losing touch with them. So we're around 800 people, and 26 months back we were 1. So in 26 months, from going from 1 to 800, it is not plausible to actually have everybody connected. So we thought, okay, how do we do that? Apart from we do offsites, we do fun games, and we keep them engaged. But one of the things was we were recruiting people, and the onboarding would take a while, and then we would train them. And after 2-3 months, we realized that this person is not a fit. So we adapted technology. This happened about 6 months back. It's out of Mumbai. Somebody introduced us. It's called TalView. And it's not that I'm supporting them for that reason. But I'm just telling you how the technology works for front end, is that the interview is actually online. It is in your own space, at your own time and will. So for example, I need a bartender. I have a set of 6 questions, and those 6 questions I've already, I put those 6 questions in a particular template, and now I get a lot of biodata, whether it's from Naukri.com or wherever you're aggregating. So this is not a recruitment agency, but you get a lot of biodata. You basically post, so you get the email ID or the phone number of that person, and you post an interview for him. So what this person does is, he gets a pop-up like an SMS or an IVR or a email. He just has to go online. He can go online, on an iPad, on a computer, even on a 2G device, because in India we do have issues with 3G and 4Gs right now. And the person actually interviews on live. So there are questions will be popped up, the person interviews, next question pops up, interviews, and goes on. So it takes about 20, 30 minutes, depending on how many questions you put. What we do is, on the go, we're evaluating this person whenever we need to. So whoever is the evaluator of that person gets a pop-up saying one person interviewed. So anytime he's in a car, moving in a metro, wherever, he can actually, so I actually see all my prospective candidates online, sitting on my phone. I don't have to ever meet them physically. If I need to, I can do that, but I evaluate there and there. Because in our business, it's about that smile. It's about that confidence level. It's about that, sense of, okay, I'm going to be serving somebody. I want to bring in chair. Because when you come and have a beer, it's all about having good time. So if the person is moronic in nature or he's sad, he won't be able to serve you. So we've been able to do a lot of that. And something really came out of this. A lot of people start complaining. First of all was the HR person. What will I do for a job? So because everything is being computerized, what will happen to me? And I said, no, your job is to keep the engagement on. You're not a recruitment agent. HR should not be recruiting. That's another aspect of it. A personnel department recruits it. Recruitment can be done by machines. But once you put that person in, now you onboarded that person, the training part, the retention part, the talent management, and keeping them happy is something what an HR should do. And a lot of people didn't interview. And the HR person comes to me and says, you know what, out of the 10 people we put, only 4 interviewed. I said, very good. The 6 people who didn't interview are not good for us. And he said, what, they didn't interview. I said, it's good. If they're not confident, coming in front of a camera and interviewing, how will their confidence level be when somebody, questions them about a beer or something? So the confidence level is very high. And if you're confident, you can face a camera, honestly, you can do anything. Coming on a stage, talking is confidence level. And that's exactly what these guys have to do, because they are the ambassadors for our brand. They're the ones who will be serving you every day in and out. We'll be sitting in an office or traveling here and there, but these are the people who are there. So it's really worked well for us. And I think, so as a technology, I was quite happy that I never thought something like this could, help us recruit much quicker. We actually moved it from front end to back end. And something even crazier happened. None of the big guys we were trying to hire, or let's say, a senior position, would say, I don't want to be interviewed in front of a camera. Why should I do this? And I said, good, let the garden weed itself. If they're not fit enough to interview, they're not needed in the company. It's as simple as that, You have to be confident, especially in a, like a people-facing environment. So that's one, tool we used, and very happy. And our HR is very happy because they can do much more than what they were doing earlier. They were just shifting through so many resumes and trying to fix interviews and, calling into a hotel and have these queues of people standing in queues trying to enter and get interviewed. So we didn't want that kind of a situation. So, okay, so we'll do one set of questions again, and then the timer will tell us to.
Just to add
Sure.
to what you said. Basically, yeah, I think HR folks today definitely need to move from transactional
Correct.
to transformational, because at the end of the day, I think that's what will give value add as HR in an organization. You're very right. But yeah, at the end of the day, what happens is if you can add value, I mean, today, if you're talking about talent acquisition, I'm sure you have different levels where you recruit for the organization. And today, if you want digitally savvy employees and things like that, your processes should be very strong.
Correct.
I think that is where HR could add more value.
Absolutely.
Because just interview is just it's a face-to-face, it's a dialogue. You really can't make out much. So how robust your recruitment processes actually is very important. So I think that's where and in this world, the digital world, I'm sure it's going to become even more important, because definitely this is going to be a very niche kind of resource. And how do we equip ourselves to get the right resources? So I think is going to be the challenge for HR.
Okay, do you want to
Allow
add
me
something?
to, just to add to what Venkat seconded your thought, I think. There's another way of trying to, minimize the human intervention at that point. Probably that's where you're leading to.
Sure.
It's a good old days, but nevertheless, this is a technique or a methodology which is coming back, kind of revisited. You could get into a good psychometric assessment tool
Correct.
yourself, and that could kind of help you a lot. There are a plethora of offerings which could help you customize the way you want it.
Correct.
And they could help you actually to mitigate to a large extent. And the rest could be carried out with your decision-making
Correct.
tree and process, yeah.
Correct. No, psychometric is very important. In fact, that's something that we introduced and it actually really helped, the kind of talent we were getting. Because you can't take a person and then look at it from a point that if he's going to leave, then what happens? You normally take a person for a particular period in time. In fact, we put in another new policy, which is nothing to do with technology, but just to add, we give 30 days of a free trial. So we onboard a person and say, okay, now you're on board. You work with us for 30 days. You're not a salaried person, all that stuff. You have two options. On the 31st day, you continue working with the company, or we give you 30 days salary free. You decide what you want to do. So if the person actually walks away with 30 days salary, it's good for us. Because then that person is not worth it, because that person actually would anyway walk away one day. So let him walk away, and why don't you don't want to go through so much training and, maybe. So 30 days is a good amount of time for him to also figure out, how good, the employers are or how good the team is. And even the referral program worked pretty well, where we were first using recruitment agencies, which technically are just, I would say, machines sending emails, literally, like they don't even shift through it. And we realized that a referral program works better. And it worked actually even better, that anybody referring another person within the organization would get 5,000 rupees or something after that person's worked for 6 months or something. And the advantage is, the moment you refer somebody, so, I just refer Samir. Now, my role would be to actually make sure for my 5,000 rupees, to make sure the Samir actually sits well into the organization. So I'll actually go even 2 steps ahead, rather than, this is a new guy, he's coming, I don't even care. Now, because I've referred him, my reputation's at stage, because I'm going to actually, make sure I hold his hand well. Okay, so coming to you, Samir, if you want to add something, I want to.
This was something which we were discussing in the pre-conference room. Two of us represent a service industry brand, and often, in this whole blitzkrieg of digital, and getting your associates to be savvy and switched on and clued on, sometimes in the service industry, it's actually humiliating and insulting for a customer when he or she walks in and she finds the store associate on the phone.
Yeah.
So I found it very, very, very disgusting. I've actually, in my stores also it happens. It's not that I'm away from this thing. And it happens in even very luxury stores. And so one challenge which remains in my mind is that, while you are trying to educate the store associate on technology and saying that, okay, this is the customer profile that you need to look at, this is what his service history is, but you're asking the poor guy to sit on his phone. So what happens to, and then how can you really control that he's only doing work? He might be doing his social bit. So, I mean, in this whole madness of trying to use technology, somehow we need to curb and balance 2 things. One is store level discipline as far as the employee is concerned. And the other thing is that how much of information is really good. Is there an overload? Is there that, you only give a digital break kind of a thing, like a lunchtime break, so you can go and update yourself what's happening. I mean, these are challenges which are going on in my company. I have a small company. I think there are big guys here. I found it very insulting that I'm talking to the guy and his eye is on the phone. And it happened as yesterday. There was this girl who was doing somebody's hair in our salon, and she had a smartphone in the back of a pocket which kept buzzing. So which I'm paying substantial amount for a hair service, and I'm finding that attention not being given to me. So this whole balance has to come in, which I really don't know how to do, honestly.
I'll tell you, no claims for having any answers or solutions, but I can just share with you what is our approach or how we see it. I think while technology is very, very good and it is critical, I read somebody say something, said, whenever any new technology rolls over, you are either, if you're not the steamroller, then you're the road, right? So either you are with the technology or you are left behind. So yes, you adopt to technology. Question is twofold. Number one, what is the balance? Okay. To give you an example, Automation is required, so we do have a centralized virtual front desk. We have a single number for people to reach us for anything that they need. But we've balanced that. As customers ourselves, we own this business, but we are customers, right? So whenever I am a customer calling somebody, calling another business, when I'm greeted by a recorded voice, it puts me off. And this very nice recorded voice tells me your business is very important, but hold on. And they put me on hold for 3 minutes, right? So one call we took was, whenever we have a central calling number, and we have one for a long time now, we have no IVR, there is no recorded message. We have an SLA, and within a few seconds, a human being will lift the phone and speak to you. Now that takes for a huge investment additional, but we still do it, and that is the balance. That is one. The second thing is, like you said, what is the overload of technology? So how much is good enough and how? Which is where I think somewhere the organization's culture comes in. We are all various kinds of retail, but one thing we have in common is, for example, they say their front people are 10th standard or 12th standard at most. Our people are not academically gifted, they're creatively gifted. They know their trade, they know their skill, but they might not be academically qualified. Now, how much of technology can you put onto this person and expect them to be with it? Which is where we decided that we want to be an organization of learners rather than an organization of knowers. So what that means is, whenever I am coming up with something new, I am rewarding people for the speed at which they take on new things rather than for getting it right. Because the moment we say, here is something new and you want to get it right at first go, people are going to get scared and defensive. But if you say that the thing is how many people get started at it, and we'll get it right by and by, right? That will be version 1, we'll go on to version 2. That becomes very different. So what sort of a culture that you are building becomes, and I think eventually it is more the culture than the technology.
Actually, yeah, we are talking about our kind of business. When we look at omni-channel, primarily what happens is you have a e-commerce function as part of our business, and you have a brick and mortar. And what we talk in terms of click and collect or click and mortar. So primarily the e-commerce function takes care of the back end. I mean, their operations is primarily in terms of logistics, supply chain, making sure, you know, the last mile delivery and things like that becomes very critical. But then our brick and mortar also needs to be sensitized, because at the end of the day, when you have to actually, when they click and collect and come to a physical store, or for an exchange or for a return, it is these people in the brick and mortar that they kind of, you know, interact with. So we need to actually sensitize them into what this online customer is and how he's going to handle. So that's something which we need to work on. So that becomes very critical in an omni-channel business. The second is in omni-channel, you also would have virtual stores. I mean, you would have a kiosk there where people could come, a catalog where people could actually kind of go through it, take whatever size and color and shade and whatever SKU they want. And that also would be part of the brick and mortar store. Because today, if you take Amazon, in the US have started these virtual stores within their, as you know, brick and mortar store. So you need to sensitize the brick and mortar workforce on this digital business or online business. So which is definitely going to be a challenge, because at the end of the day, be it exchange or returns, they are not used to as much as what the online business is into. Because if you look at the kind of returns which happen in the online business is very different from what happens in the brick and mortar business. So these are challenges, I think, from HR that we need to also look into for our brick and mortar business when we are actually opening up our omni-channel venture.
Can I? Yeah. Pardon me if I may sound like an evangelist of technology, but that's the business I am into, so I better do it better. Okay. So Sachin just mentioned about the balance. While I do, emphasize or rather recognize the need for a good balance, I think how the adoption of technology, today we're talking about retail, it's basically the need, and the need is to adopt technology, and how fast you're how quick adopter you are speaks about, the better output or the service you end up giving to the customer. Now, I may not necessarily demonstrate with ground level examples at this point, but all I'm saying is, just give you an anecdote, an example of what happened back at home this week. We were trying to control my daughter from going online by, minimizing the access to the internet at home, or, controlling her mobile data plans, etc. So I figured out very lately that she has got a habit of taking my phone usually in the night when I am around time to doze off. So that's the time, Papa, can I have your phone? So I kind of take it better, the love and affection for the kid. So I realized lately that she has actually created a hotspot and started using my data plan. So it's basically the need, which drives you. So whether it is in store, back office, front end, online, see, I think you need to recognize that interest within, and that drives it. It's for organizations to enable them with various programs and methodology of getting that onto their plate. I think I'm a great advocate of, if you have the need, the wants could be many, but basically get the need in place, and you could fulfill it in any forms, one. Secondly, today, I refer to the last conversation I heard next door. It's about the bubble being burst. I come from a pharma background as well also, so I use the word half-life. In pharma, it's used very often. So the half-life for the bubble to burst is very small these days. So what is a mantra? I think it's early adoption is a mantra, because you get your bucks well on time before the bubble burst. So I think you don't have a choice today. You've got to adopt. In that pursuit, I think we made an attempt, and we are still on it. My vendor is around, so I'm sure he's hearing me properly as well. We went on to, how do we help the productivity on the floor in the store? So we went into a workforce management. We did a pilot, and for some reasons it's stalled for a moment, but I think no sooner or later we should be coming back with this, move with this technology which we adopted, for the simple reason it's going to, add to your bottom line. And so there are many such tools available today to improve your productivity, and omnichannel is a big tsunami by itself, which is hitting all of us.
Okay, Samir, my last question, and then we'll open this to the audience to ask. So, coming in, just a thought came in because you have an enterprising daughter who figured the technology part at home, and obviously everybody's looking at a jugaad, like some jugaad in technology which you can kind of turn it around. So, one of the things in your organization is it's a very skill-based workforce. So in retail, you can kind of have a pleasing smile and you can train the person. In your case, it's a hairdresser. I can't ever think of, first of all, I don't even think of hair, but coming from a hairdresser's point of view, it's a very skilled. So I think poaching should be easy, right? You can poach people when you open. Is there a digital way of poaching?
Well, I don't think we figured that out. I think there is enough of time which is available for poaching otherwise. But on another version, what my colleague here was saying, that we're a nation who corrupts people, honestly. I've seen Europe, and I've seen hairstylists who come and work for us from Europe. They're not technologically advanced as we are, and they don't carry cell phones. They just go in the morning to the salon, they keep their cell phones away in the locker, and that's about it. I mean, during a lunchtime when he heads out for a lunch or from coffee, that's when he sees. However, the reverse in India is that he, possibly the only time when he'll keep his phone down is when he's eating lunch. Yeah. And like I said, we've corrupted people. So I'll tell you this very real incident. We had this hairstylist who came to us from France, and he carried a very basic phone, not a smartphone, which is very rare in India. And just about a couple of weeks ago, we have this employee app, so you can blame us for it, okay? And this guy, this lady actually, was was using this app to the maximum advantage. So I asked her, I said, about a year ago, you came into India with such a basic Nokia, or with no disrespect to Nokia, with a basic, hard candy phone or whatever it's called. And now you've upgraded. So this lady says that she's loving the whole thing. So I mean, I keep coming back to the fact that, while we have to upgrade and we have to educate and we have to use technology for our associates, but somehow it's very, very critical that the human interface does not go down. And more so in our industry where there's a 15, 20, 25-minute consultation process about your hair, about your skin. I don't see that happening. However, coming back, I think what Rahul asked me, digital poaching is something I need to think about. I haven't gone up that street, actually. Yeah.
Okay, great. So we have a ticker now which says, yes, we can put this audience into a Q&A session. If anybody has a query, you could just raise your hand, ask a particular panelist, or you can ask the group and we can try and answer it. Anything. How's the lunch? Anything. So, okay. Silent audience. There you go. Yeah, one person, yeah. So.
I want to ask this question to Venkat. With such a huge organization, why it is required for you to get into omnichannel? Is it the buzzword that's what you're doing? Because your organization is doing so well. What motivates big organization to get into omnichannel mode? That's a small piece till now.
I think way forward would be omni-channel for, I'm sure, for the physical, the brick and mortar retail. Definitely has to, because there would be a percentage of clients. Today, even if you look worldwide, about still 70% is brick and mortar, 30% is online. And we are not looking at a pure play, which is actually today not a very successful model, because at the end of the day, it's a discount game and it's not what we want to do. But this is more in terms of providing them another channel. And where they could actually, maybe they don't have the time to come to a store, and they can go through online, click, and then from the store, the closest store, we deliver it to them. So that is something which we can do. And if they want to return something, yes, which they got, they could, passing by a store, they could return it there or exchange it there. So it's more in terms of facilitating them with another channel. So it's not online per se, because if it's just online, today I don't know how it would work. We need to see, because at the end of the day, there would be consolidation in the e-commerce business. You'll find quite a few of these pure play players consolidating. But we feel that the need is there. So that's the reason why we are getting, and we won't burn much money in this.
Okay. Any other question? If you don't want to ask, or you have a question inside and you're a little shy, just think of the right-hand side person and say, it's for him I'm asking, or her I'm asking. That's okay.
Okay. Just a small query. My colleague is there from HR, but I still want to put this question to the panel. We are talking about brick and mortar organization, we're talking about digital organization. Like, it's still people which are required to make both the organization. Do you really feel it has to be dealt differently in terms of people when it is digital organization or it's a brick and mortar organization?
Okay, we are going through that. So can I take this question? We're just building an e-commerce team, as well as we have the, if you really look at it, we started off thinking, the office itself should be different for them, because what happens with Gen Y or millennials, any office, people compare Google or a Myntra or, offices which are very different. So they wanted something different. So we said, okay, there would be certain differentiation, but at the same time, they need to follow the group policies because it can't be too deviant. So that is something which we have taken a conscious decision. But if you look at it, their mindset is very different, because they are the creative lot. So even if we take our retail business, our designers are a different breed altogether. the design function. So we treat them like more like our designers in terms of creativity and things like that. So that's something. But yes, overall, you will find that over a period of time, all this will get standardized. That's what happened when, the BPO business first came. To attract people to BPOs or call centers, it was more like an extended college which was provided to them. But today, it's all streamlined. It's all become as part of. So ultimately, it needs to fall in line, and the bottom line becomes important, because at the end of the day, I think these are all wafer thin margin businesses.
This
Just to add, I think whether it is brick and mortar or whether it is digital, it's just the medium that's different. So a better way to look at it would be people who started in the analog world and then learned to become digital, who are migrants, and people who were born in the digital age. They just tend to think of the same things but differently. Eventually, it's all the same stuff, but the mediums are the ones that are different.
This brings to me my second question. During this transition of treating differently the digital organization people, do you see a flip side saying the current lot of people could be a little bit unhappy saying there is a different treatment given to the newer lot, and will it create some sort of disturbance as well?
No, that's why I said we need to have common policies across. You can't have. So if you're looking at bringing in paternity leave, so you have paternity leave for everybody. So if you're looking at increasing, maternity benefits, increase it to everybody. So look at it more from a broader perspective as an organization. I think that would be more progressive, more inclusive, and look at it across. So if we start differentiating, then you would definitely have like the reservation issues we have.
Just to add on, sorry Sachin, let me. Yeah, so I think the challenges come in where you have a good brick and mortar structure, and when you're in an adoption of a new methodology, there is going to be a bit of challenge. How do you manage and negate the ill effects, so-called ill effects probably. But yeah, if you're getting into a pure omni offering, I think the challenges are minimal, and that's where the brick and mortar organizations who are evolving into the new channels have the competition within, because they can't really match up the expectations of the industry there, and while they have to balance the internal expectation. So that's a little bit of rough which we'll have to walk through until we get over and get into a more standardized model, like Venkat said. That's the time for which we kind of settle down. Until then, we'll have to manage this rough, yeah. So there'll be an increase, a spurt of attrition probably, but that's going to settle, yeah.
Now, practically, we have this issue because when we recruit for e-commerce, we find that the salary levels are much higher than, somebody, maybe a merchandiser from an e-commerce company joining us, vis-a-vis the merchandiser working with us. You find that, the difference is there. Then we say, why do we have to get somebody from outside? Why don't you provide growth for people from within? So we've strengthened the IJP process to see that our own people get into e-commerce and they get that. So I think that's working out very well. And if they are quite okay, I mean, they're not the high flyers, we definitely kind of bring them on. So.
I'll give you a slightly different perspective. Take an example from another field altogether. Take banking. And banking in the last 10 years has changed more than it changed in the 50 years before that, right? And we all know that there was something called VRS that happened. So large mass of people who were not, in terms of relevance, lost out when this whole digital thing came, when experience itself, rather than becoming an advantage, became luggage, you had that big shift. And the simple reason for that shift was, if anybody was from the analog world, they had to first accept that they have to change, then de-learn the old process and learn the new. So it was a 3-step process. For digital native, it is just a 1-step process. There is no acceptance, there is no previous knowledge, so there is just learning. So there will be a difference, and there will be a time period in any organization, in any industry, where you will transit from one to the other. The rate at which that will happen will decide how tumultuous that's going to be. I don't know whether I'm making sense.
I have a different question.
Sorry?
I have a different question.
Oh, but we won't answer 3 times, so I promise you.
Just to continue on that thread, the question is more about, see previously, if I look at last 10 years or 15 years, in terms of the work organization, there were different roles and departments. And there was nothing called technology, outsourcing, all of that BPO sort of this thing. I'm unable to understand so far, was it a demand or it's like a chicken or egg story? Was it a demand from the employees that these are the knowledge pool or a millennium resources which requires breakout areas and indoor games and all those things vis-a-vis a traditional organization, like right from Reliance to Birla to anybody other industry, they are also having knowledge pool because as you mentioned, designers are designers and engineers are engineers. Be it a product designer, be it a fashion designer or be it a technology designer. They all get into the designing, innovation, creativity mode and requires a resemblance to that environment. When it comes to building something, it's a protocol. You go through the process and you build it. And when it comes to execution, it's an operation. Do or die, you have to get it executed. So what was the trigger point? Was it the organization and HR who was cultivating the need of giving a different environment to this resource talent pool, or was it the new generation demanded saying that let me go to an Accenture BPO because there is a table tennis available or different kind of facilities were available? What was the story? I'm still able to, because I heard about, you know, the Infosys campus and TCS campus and spreading into some acres and acres, but still not able to get the answer whether it is HR or whether it was the employee demand.
Can I take that question again? So basically, yeah, we moved from the manufacturing era to the knowledge era. So in the manufacturing era, the assets were, you know, the plant machinery, building. So those were assets. So 80–90% of, you know, the spend was on that area. But in the knowledge era, the spend is on people because 70–80% of the spend of an organization of a new economy company is on people. So what becomes critical for organizations is to retain these people. For retention of people, you also need to make sure because they work long hours, they kind of, you know, you spoke about creativity, they need an environment which is very different. So the need came in the knowledge industry to actually kind of come up with, you know, a work environment to support them to do it. So that is one, it's in terms of a need, because even if you take a retail organization, the designers are very different. I mean, you can easily spot a designer in the crowd because he or she would be wearing flip-flops and, you know, shorts. I mean, you know, not shorts, but definitely, you know, toned jeans and things like that coming into office because they are a different breed altogether. You need to actually make sure because they are also a very important element in the system. So that is one. Good organizations, if you look at it, because especially with the omni-channel business we're talking about, which will talk about both physical and, you know, online and e-tail and retail. So what will happen is you need to have standardization across. You can't show differentiation for your e-commerce business and your your brick and mortar business. So in the corporate offices you need to. Eventually it will upgrade. It will actually make sure you give better facilities because breakout areas or pantries or, because even in the manufacturing era, people were taken care of. I mean, it is not that there were welfare officers in the previous year where people used to be just taking care, canteen, all these facilities are very, very important. So it was then, so it has just changed. I think it's only question of how, you know, when we are evolving, things change and HR actually becomes a function which is also becoming more creative.
Okay, I'm actually successfully seconding Venkat today because he's pitching most of the response. I'll take that as a compliment that, was it HR responsible? If it is yes, I will take it as a compliment. Look, a generation before you, how many jobs were they changing? Very few. What made them to stick around? There are multiple things to it. Manufacturing intensive, today service intensive. I think things around us started changing so much. So whether it is a HR initiative or in general, the CEO drives it, whosoever it is, I think the expectations from the team has changed and it's evolving and will continue to evolve. So 10 years down the line, we may see something else to be offered to the employee. It's about engaged employee at the end of it, by all means.
Great. We've been shunted out, so thank you very much for your patience. And anybody offline, online, you can connect with us. No issues. Thanks very much.
Thank you.